Minister in the Presidency, Jackson Mthembu, says that Cabinet is concerned about the number of dysfunctional municipalities across the country. Now, this follows the Auditor General's report that only 18 out of the 257 municipalities received clean audits. And through the Government Communication and Information Systems, or GCIS, government has also listed some of the issues that they are concerned about. Spokesperson of GCIS, Phumla Williams, joins us now to discuss these matters further. Thanks so much for your time this morning, Ms. Williams.
Thank you very much, Sakina, and good morning to the viewers.
Ms. Williams,
yes.
First and foremost, government says it's concerned about these dysfunctional municipalities. Again, what exactly is government concerned about? Because this is by no means a new phenomenon. The AG's reports has year after year focused and highlighted some of the reasons for the dysfunctionality of these municipalities, and seemingly nothing is being done. So what exactly is government, concerned about?
Sakina, without me preempting what the cabinet will be pronouncing, the minister yesterday did point out that the report was released whilst the cabinet was in session, and therefore it is going to be engaging with it in the next cabinet cycle. And in the next cabinet cycle, we will then be able to pronounce what the cabinet's position is.
So we look at these dysfunctional municipalities, which are, of course, in the main under the control of the ruling African National Congress as the ruling party in government. So what is the plan of action for these dysfunctional municipalities? And I know you say cabinet will still deliberate further, but there was some mention of some of the things that perhaps need to be done. We're talking about municipalities in some instances that cannot fix roads, others that have other serious infrastructure challenges. So what exactly is the plan at this stage?
Sakina, can I repeat again that we will get the cabinet to pronounce, but what I think I will be able to say to you is that over the years, the government has engaged with the challenges that the Auditor General is facing, wherein they make these fundings, but the consequences have not been impactful. And that's one of the reasons that there has been this amendment of the Audit Act, because the Audit Act amendment is meant to address exactly the point that you are making, that what are the consequences, and there should be consequences. And I think the Auditor General, even what I watched when he was engaging with the media, she was pointing out that from now onwards, there will be consequences, because when they find an irregularity in an audit, and they will be expecting the particular entity to respond at a particular time, and when they don't respond on a particular time, there are series of steps that will finally lead to the implementation of the recommendations of the Auditor General. So yes, there is a lot of work that is being done in terms of making the work of the Auditor General by to where it matters, because it does concern a government that year in and year out you would find a department where there is a finding and nothing is being done. So what is going to be happening is that the act will kick in, but in terms of what the cabinet is going to do with the report that was released yesterday, let's wait for the next cabinet cycle where they engage with the report, and I think the cabinet will then pronounce its position.
Now, Ms. Williams, the other major issue is the reconfiguration of government. Some departments have been merged, and there are some new people heading some of the portfolios as well. GCIS says there's a clear mandate to accelerate inclusive economic growth, also to act with greater urgency to tackle poverty, to improve government services, fight corruption, and to end state capture. Now, firstly, when can we begin to see some of the impact of what has been stated here?
Sakina, I think what we can confirm that firstly the cabinet has welcomed the reconfiguration of the state, and the objective being to make sure that we begin to operate in an effective way, in a cost-effective way. What I can confirm as we speak now, the newly formed departments have already been gazetted. the work of trying to merge those departments that needs to be merged is taking place. You will, I think I should remind that the process of merging departments, it's a process that will go on up till the next cycle, because remember, most of these departments have their votes or their dedicated budgets. So the work that is currently taking place, which is led by the Presidency and the DPSA and Finance, is to make sure that that whole configuration of merging budgets, merging personnel, and also dealing with the resources of the various departments is taking place in a smooth manner. But there is a time frame so that when we start the next cycle of the finance budget cycle, there is a different vote for a particular department. So the work is taking place. But I think the key that the cabinet is trying to emphasize is that whatever that the officials are doing in implementing this configuration, the service delivery program of government does not suffer. And that's what is taking place. And that's why the whole merging is going to be a process, but a process that is going to lead us into a reprogrammed government.
So how do you convince South Africans that there certainly will be some headway made? We've just had the Auditor General's report, which paints a very stark picture. You look at the macro reorganization of government, and that is set to go to streamlining and also improve service delivery to people. And this is supposed to be something that government should do at will, as it were, but there is no money. The municipalities are dysfunctional. It would seem that most entities of government are also not able to deliver on the promises put to South Africans. So the greater question therefore becomes, do you even have the money to do some of these things that you are saying will be done? Will the municipalities be in a position to deliver on these promises, given that government has no money and we're told to tighten our belts?
Sakina, I think in the next coming weeks, the departments will be presenting in Parliament their operational plan and their budget allocation. It is true that the budget, as we have it now, is restricted. However, there is a program that needs to take place. The President has spelled out that we need to work very hard in creating jobs, in making sure that all the electoral mandate that he has committed to do, it does take place. He has spelled out the 7 priorities. What the work of the department is going to be is to make sure that with the limited resources that we have, we need to begin to make progress in areas that we have committed to do. So I think there will be a rollout, there will be a budget vote that will be spelled out. And I think what I can then request is that I think South Africans, we have to be part of this process. It has to be our concern that we want to listen to these budget votes as they are spelled out. And fortunately, the Parliament is an open process. Most of the time, these rollout programs are televised, and I think we need to make sure that we take an interest in what happens in Parliament, because that's where the politicians and the ministers will be rolling out their program. But I will go as far as saying that in the last 2-3 years, Parliament had instituted a process where on a quarterly basis, departments are expected to come and report back. And that also is a mechanism of keeping check of what we commit to do. And on a quarterly basis, we go to Parliament and report back what we have done and what we have not done. And I think a few people who have been watching, they have seen how the officials then, together with the ministers, are held to account of what is it that they said they were going to do and they have not done. But additional to that, the President is on record in saying that I will be engaging with each and every minister. I will have a performance agreement. I will be able to review what they have signed to do and what they have and the progress. So I think there are a lot of mechanisms that we want to put in place to make sure that it is not business as usual going forward.
But you talk about something like a performance mechanism, Ms. Williams, and we've seen these before. We've seen them signed, and there was a whole lot of fanfare around that. But what comes of it? Are people actually held accountable, as in ministers who head up portfolios, if their portfolios fail dismally? If you look at the state of our state-owned enterprises, for example, if you look at what happened in the 5th Parliament, where certain ministers did not fulfill their obligation to appear before portfolio committees in Parliament, what should happen in those instances? Are people actually held accountable through those performance monitoring mechanisms?
Sakina, what I can actually say is that the president is on record that it's no longer going to be business as usual. And I think we have no reason not to take him on his word. What he has said is that going forward, I will put in place mechanisms to monitor what each minister is committing to do. Yes, the reason she's saying it's not going to be business as usual, there is an acknowledgement that, yes, maybe we were not as tough as we are, but I would go as far as saying that even us as citizens, we need to begin to be as active. You know, what I was saying in one of the interviews is that let us help the president to be in each and every department by being actively involved in what is expected of us from a public servant. When I go to a Department of Home Affairs and there is a commitment that this is what is going to be happening, if it's not happening, we need to begin to say, Mr. President, this is not happening, because the president said there will be consequences. And I think if we all jointly participate in making sure that the commitments that we made, they do happen. And I think we will go a long way in making sure that we assist in implementing the programs of government.
And you're just talking about state-owned enterprises for a moment, and we know that many of them are in trouble. We saw this week Denel struggling to pay salaries, PRASA struggling to pay salaries. There are various bailouts expected from these state-owned entities. Crucially, you look at entities like Eskom, like SAA, and of course us as the SABC. What is the status with regard to guarantees and bailouts for SOEs?
I don't think I have the updates, but I think the Minister of Public Enterprise will be able to provide. But I think, Sakina, I have to also remind South Africans that the reason there is so much work, it's as a result of the processes that were kickstarted by the president through the setting up of the commission, through to investigate what is the problem and how do we fix it. And I think there's a lot of work that is taking place, and the minister will be briefing. And in the last cycle, just before we close in, the Minister of Public Enterprise, together with the Deputy President who is leading the team that is looking into these things, they were giving updates. I think what we can say now is that the minister is still committed to that on a regular basis. They will be updating South Africans of what is happening, even the updates, because I don't have the latest updates now, but the Minister of Public Enterprise will regularly brief South Africans on what is happening on those SOEs. But because what I can confirm is that the president, together with the executive, they remain seized in making sure that these SOEs begin to do what they are expected to do. The fact that they continuously getting bailout is not a healthy situation in what we want to put in place, and therefore there is work that is currently taking place.
Well, we unfortunately are going to have to leave it there, but thanks so much for your time this morning. And that was Phumla Williams, who is, of course, the acting head of GCIS, talking to us there about the announcements that were made yesterday by Cabinet and Government Communication Information Systems spokesperson Phumla Williams talking to us there. So lots to talk about. Dysfunctional municipalities, some of the promises that have been made during the State of the Nation address, and now talking about cabinet ministers will go forward and outline those programs. Tell us what your views are at Morning Live SABC. Let's take a break and then we'll bring you the latest news.